swept with so much guilt because you couldn't help but to see the way that things transpired. It wasn't on anybody else but me.
But you, yeah.
Right.
Like, you know how a lot of times even though you know that you're the wrong, even though you know you're the culprit in your youth or maybe in your own adulthood, it makes you feel better when you get somebody else to blame.
Right.
You know people who don't own up to their mess.
Yeah.
You couldn't point at nobody.
I couldn't point, bro. I couldn't point to nobody. I couldn't point to nobody to make to the coach, the teachers,
Yeah.
Nobody tell you to get drunk. Nobody, and so I don't know all the reasons as to why my scholarships, why it worked out. I know the Lord up above planned it that way.
Yeah,
because we always know that there are people who, you can get scholarships with records, you can get scholarships, but it didn't work out that way for me.
Right.
I needed a clean slate to keep my scholarships, and I didn't keep a clean slate, so I lost everything.
How did your pops and your mom react to that?
So one of the things that happened, and I tell people all the time, my dad wanted to try to save me. He was like, man, when I got in trouble and when the school told me, they went through with the police officer and then they told me, like, your parents gonna have to come in and we gotta deal your suspension to the alternative system.
Right.
And we'll reflect you based off of your behavior if we can allow you into this district. And if we don't choose to allow you, you can't come back to schools of this district. You gotta go to AISD. Right. Like, you can't be here. Right. And so I'm like, man, okay. I call my dad because every boy you'll call your pops because your mama gonna come with the nail.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
Facts. Sure. And so I call my pops. Pops was like, man, don't tell your mama till I get home. Don't tell your mama till I get home. But when I came through that door, I was like, man, I gotta tell her. I can't look for him to save me. And as soon as I told him I got in trouble and all that stuff, he came home. He's like, see, man, I told you not to tell her.
Yeah.
We gotta work at it. And so he was like, I'm going to tell you something and this is going to hurt you. He was like, I need you to call every single coach. Look up their numbers. You find the numbers however whether they offered you a scholarship or not. I need you to call them and tell them what you just got in trouble for. The reason being is because I'm raising men of integrity and character. And if you don't own up to your mistakes now, you will never do it as you become a man.
Yeah.
So I called every single LSU, Georgia Tech, Texas, to every school, whether it was a scholarship or not. I had a college manual. My brother had a college, this old college director had that number of every single college because, SATs and all that other stuff. I had an older brother who was a track and field athlete. So he had all this leftover college. And so I had literally this book that had every number. And in there, you could find any department in the university. So you could find the athletic department. This is before you hit Dr. Google and it spits out everything.
None of that. Bro.
So we the last ones on the phone book era. We the last ones that know how to do yellow pages and white pages, right? So I knew how to work the book. And so I called every single college coach. I left the messages, told them that I was in trouble, what I had done. And I remember the last school I called on my list was Georgia Tech. And I remember calling Georgia Tech, and in the middle of the call, I was literally, I guess I forgot that I hadn't hung up the phone. And I was like, I left the message for the running back coach who was recruiting, and I said, what I got in trouble for? And I was like, man, Tyler, what are you doing? And it hadn't dawned upon me that I was still holding the phone. And I was like, oh, click. And so every phone call, it felt like you were speaking your future away. So if whatever it is that you want, whatever it is that you desire, picture yourself like being so close to it, but then you yourself are speaking that dream further and further and further and further away from you with every call.